Good evening. We are gathered here tonight in the presence of a man who is a legend in Unitarian Universalist music circles. One whose achievements inspire admiration and even envy on the part of his colleagues. But enough about me. Slegers is here too. Mark has been nothing but supportive during our 20 years together. Whenever I've chosen to play, he has never once said, "Don't ever play that again." Members of the congregation have said that to me, but Mark never has. I truly wish I could say I've been just as supportive, and I have tried. But I do want to take this opportunity to dispel the rumor that the break into the choir library we suffered some years ago was actually an inside job with the aim of finding and destroying all known copies of Share or Dream. It wasn't, and I had nothing to do with it. There have been times when Mark's been even too appreciative. Once during the postlude of the second service, with just the two of us up here in the chancel, everyone in the room but Mark saw the last 2 pages of the Bach Little Fugue fall off the rack while I was playing the first 2. Mark had his back to the organ screen, probably had his eyes closed, absorbed in the music. I started improvising frantically, screaming over my shoulder, "Mark! Mark!" And finally, Marty Yoder got his attention. He came and rescued me. But when we talk of legends, there's one thing about Mark that's truly legendary, and that's his inability to keep track of his keys. You know what I'm talking about. And this is absolutely true. One Saturday a few years ago, I was out with friends. I just happened to drive by the church office on 13th Avenue, and just after I did, my cell phone rang. Mark was here for some reason, looking out the street because he had locked himself out of his own office, and he saw a car that looked like mine go by. When Mark is up here leading hymns, you may know that he's not just waving his arms around. He's scanning the congregation, looking for people who know how to sing. And he'll probably still do it this Sunday. And when he finds them, he's not shy about introducing himself. We should all be so welcoming to newcomers. There was a Sunday when a fellow organist, an acquaintance I'll call Hector, he was in the congregation. He came up to see the organ after the postlude, and of course, because he was a church musician, he knew how to sing, and Mark had noticed him, and he came right over and elbowed his way into our conversation. I don't want to say that Mark was flirting with him, but Mark was flirting with him. What Mark didn't know was that the reason Hector was not otherwise occupied on a Sunday morning was that until recently he had been doing time for arson. The whole time they were chatting, I was behind Hector, looking at Mark, nodding, shaking my head back and forth, frantically mouthing, "No, no." During our choir tour to Europe 10 years ago, I told Mark that I had impressed Vicky by speaking German to her cashier. And Mark said, "Well, it's nice to see everyone's gifts on a trip like this." Ordinarily, I wouldn't have thought any more about it, except that when he said this, we were standing side by side in the men's room, if you know what I mean. Mark had worked, for the choir's benefit, he had worked the international phonetic symbols for the vowels into his conducting. I have no idea what the hell the orchestra thought he was doing. And I suppose now to be told that David Livermore and I used to have a pretend drinking game every time Mark said, "Why not?" And occasionally the second to last note of a piece gets held a little too long. That's a small price to pay for the kind of consistency